helping you lead a healthier life. This is CURES.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the CURES Show, where we explore the cutting edge of wellness for our mind, body, and spirit. So, how do we get back to joy? Joy might seem elusive to us in the middle of the mundane. So many of the things we do, we just repeat every day. But today we're talking about finding joy in our everyday lives with Dr. Laura Saunders. She is a psychologist with the Institute of Living in Hartford. Thank you for being here, Doctor.
Hi, Kara. Thank you for having me.
I think this is something that's useful, but also it is true. We just think we look forward to like big days, but then it's like, oh, it's just another Monday. Oh, I got to get on the wheel again. So is joy elusive to us because of that?
I think sometimes joy is elusive, and some of these concepts are coming out of a book. It's called Look Again, The Power of Noticing What Was Always There, right? So the reality is most of us have good, if not some great things in our lives. You know, we have family that cares about us. We have a safe place to live. We have a job that we enjoy and that we get, paid enough to sort of pay our bills. But sometimes even those good things, or sometimes great things, have a limited impact on our view of the happiness or peacefulness in our life. And one of the things that these authors look at in this book is the concept of habituation.
Yeah, so habituation is just when we don't respond to things. Like, we don't really look at the everyday as a gift. Certainly we can look across the world and see what's going on in Gaza and all these people struggling, or when the pandemic happened, I guess little things might have felt more important. But in a general sense, we just go, okay, I got a house, I got a car, I got a coffee, and we rush on to the next thing.
Right. Habituation is just that. It's our brain's tendency to respond less and less to things that are fairly constant in our life, or that only change very gradually. So what once was something that we were really excited about becomes mundane, right? You buy a new house and you're so excited about it and you kind of decorate it, and then it's like, oh yeah, I have a house. You get a new car, or a new car to you. You kind of plan a trip and you're all excited, and then you're on the trip and it's like, oh yeah, day 3 of vacation. Oh well, right? So some of those things become mundane. So what we want to do is not allow ourselves to habituate too much, because it takes the joy out of things.
So if habituation is what humans naturally do, like, okay, I got this, I got that, I don't care anymore, how do we change it? How do we find joy in the mundane things of every day?
So there's a few different ways the authors suggest to dishabituate, which I'm not sure if that's even a word, but I'm using it. So the way is to dishabituate. And remember that habituation works both ways, right? Sometimes we habituate or get used to and respond less and less to the negative things in our life. You have, arthritis in your shoulder, and you kind of habituate to the fact that you have pain. So I'm not saying habituation is always a bad thing, because sometimes it allows us to move through things. But one of the ways that we can start to dishabituate is by breaking up good experiences into parts, right? Sometimes when I get in my car, even though I've had my car for a couple of years now, I remember, I love this car. I like the way it drives. The seats are comfortable for me, right? You kind of bring back some of the positive aspects, create more joy, create more firsts in an experience that you might otherwise just do on a regular basis.
So we should do our first throughout the day to find more joy. Like, I'm so excited about my first cup of coffee. Like, actually notice that.
Yes. I mean, I drink tea. So for me, it's my first cup of tea of the day. I love that first cup of tea. It's, looking forward to, this is for lunch today. I'm really excited to have that for lunch, or I want to plan this for dinner. It's finding little ways to bring a little bit of joy or a little bit of excitement. The flip side to that is tasks that we find unpleasant. We need to not sort of break up into pieces. We just need to tackle the whole thing, because otherwise we have a tendency to avoid those.
Yes. So I think of the dishwasher. I hate unloading. I think everyone does. Nobody wants to unload it. You know, they put the dishes in the sink like, oh, someone will get that later. But I've started to say that I will microwave or turn on the tea kettle, right? The tea kettle takes just a couple of minutes to boil. And I play a little game like, can I get everything unloaded before it boils and then I get to have my tea? So you're saying when we don't like something, we should rush through it.
Yeah, but that is a perfect strategy, because what you're doing is providing yourself a little reward and kind of challenging yourself a little bit. That is a perfect way to push through some of those tasks that we don't like to do. So for some people, it might be folding laundry or, commuting home, doing those kinds of things that are a little bit more mundane that we don't like.
Yeah.
And that's a good way to kind of push through.
Okay. Exercise. It's something that people really should do. We know that, but sometimes people just don't like it. How would you habituate that so that maybe you could even find joy in it?
So that kind of a task is something where you say, you know what, I just need to go for a walk, go on the treadmill, lift weights, go on the bike, whatever you're going to do. I just need to do it for 15 minutes. Because very often in those situations, once you're doing the task, you realize it wasn't as cumbersome or difficult as you thought it might be. And you're like, well, you know what? I've been on it for 15 minutes. I'm just going to keep going.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's the initiation that's really hard in those situations. So once you get through the initiation and you get into the task, it's not as bad as you might have thought it would be. And then you can extend it. You know what? I'm already 15 minutes in. I'm just going to extend another 15 minutes. Or, so it's the initiation that causes the barrier or the avoidance in those situations.
Yeah. So also you say we should diversify our lives and kind of take a little inventory, whether there are things we might want to change. There's
aspects of all our lives that we might want to change, that might feel too mundane, or that just don't bring us any sense of joy or accomplishment. For some people, that might be a job, right? They feel that their job is a dead end. It's just not working for them anymore. But the task of like looking for a new job or doing something, it seems monumental. So any of those tasks, again, you break them down into really small parts. Like, you know what? By the end of this week, I'm just going to update my resume. I'm not saying I'm going to apply for anything. I'm just going to update my resume. So you're going to do things and reflect on what aspects of your life don't bring you a sense of joy or even a sense of satisfaction, and then find small ways to not just habituate, right? This is my job. This is what I have to do. And to break down those tasks into smaller parts, and that the goal is only to accomplish one small part. I'm not even saying I'm going to apply for another job. All I'm saying is I'm going to update my resume by the end of the week.
Yeah, just one thing. Just try that. Also, there's a cliche, variety is the spice of life. And that actually is important for finding joy.
It absolutely is. And I'm not saying that, we don't all need some structure and consistency, because that actually, our bodies and our minds need some amount of structure and consistency. However, within that, there is some variety that just adds some spice to our lives. It gives us something different to look forward to. You tend to walk this one path, and today, you know what, I'm going to walk in the opposite direction. I'm going to walk a different route. I'm going to do something a little different. So just moving things a little bit actually changes your perspective in some of those things, and can add a little bit of openness, emotional openness to a situation.
Okay, so just a little bit. I mean, that's the thing. I think we find, I see this with my teenagers. Well, there's nothing to look forward to, after Christmas break. They start to go, oh, there's nothing, Christmas is over, because they get so excited about Christmas. And as adults, I guess we also need things to look forward to, but what you're saying is it doesn't have to be big things. It could be, I'm setting myself up for a little mental break and some tea and chocolate every day at 3:30. That's what I do just in between shows. I'm like, all right, this is gonna be my little mental break, and I look forward to my little piece of chocolate.
Right, and that's a perfect way to break up a task, to find, it really is about finding the small joys. I mean, again, we sometimes liken this to gratitude, like, I feel so grateful that I get a break at 3:30, and so I have my little tea and chocolate. So finding ways to break that up, finding those small rewards or reinforcers. It doesn't always have to be the big things, right? At the end of Christmas break, you're not thinking, oh God, I have, 5.5 more months until we're out, or 6 more months until we're out of school. It's saying, all right, well, the next long weekend is Martin Luther King weekend in that situation. So I have that weekend to look forward to, and let's do something together as a family, or let's plan something. So it's finding ways to break tasks down and finding smaller joys in those tasks.
Also you see those bumper stickers that people put on saying, I live for the weekends. Psychologically, that can't be good for us, right? We have to enjoy the parts of our lives that aren't the weekend or Christmas.
I would totally agree with that. We need to, it's almost too far reaching in some situations. And what it means is that you're constantly wiping out every week ahead of you. I get excited if it's a Monday and it's sunny, right? So it's not a rainy Monday. Those are a little harder. Okay, today's a Monday and it's sunny, or, I love the warm weather. So, I see we're going to have some warm days coming up. Those are going to be things to look forward to. So I'll actually look at the weather. I'll look at the Channel 3 weather and say, oh, good. It's going to be, sunny several days this week. That's something to look forward to. So breaking things down. I'm someone that's fortunate, I think, like you, that I really love what I do. It's not even really a job for me. This is like my passion. So I'm fortunate in that way. But even so, I need to find ways to, bring in small little joys or little things where I can feel a sense of accomplishment, or I can switch things up a little bit to give me some variety. So it's not like Monday I always do the same thing, Tuesday I do the same thing, right? To switch things up a little bit, because that also helps reset your system and gives you small little things to look forward to.
Yeah, I totally agree. I had some great people in my life. My mom once told me, do what you love, and everything else will take care of itself. And fun little side, so I was offered a job when I was graduating. I was either going to Virginia to make $18,000 a year and be a reporter and try and do this business in a tiny little town, or I had a job offered much, much more money to go work on Wall Street. But I'm like, I hate math. I can't imagine I'm going to be very good at that. So thankfully, it all worked out. I didn't go to Wall Street. But that's part of it. I mean, that's the macro. In order to find joy, sometimes you might need to make a change. If you're just all the time dreading stuff, that would also be indicative that you probably need to make a change in your life.
Right. And there's small changes, right? Changing up the route that you go to work, or changing up your walk, or, you can't really get rid of your kids. You got to just, kind of modify them. But sometimes for people, it's also like making a massive change in a relationship. If a relationship over a long period of time has been not bringing you any joy, or you feel like you're growing apart, and it's been years on end, and your values are shifting, and, sometimes those bigger changes are really, really hard. So even those changes need to be broken down into smaller parts. So it's not like I'm going to leave my partner and move out. And I mean, that's massive and that's overwhelming. It's making small changes. I'm going to schedule an appointment with a therapist to have this discussion, right? And then from there, I'm going to, set my next intention. So it's really breaking things down into parts that's what helps them feel more manageable.
Also, we have some negative habits, all of us do. And in this idea of habituation, we don't want to habituate those. So you don't want us, according to this research, we should not treat small negative habits as harmless. If you're a critical person, you're always criticizing your spouse, or you're always complaining every morning, you want to nip it in the bud.
Yes, because the words that we use, the thoughts that we have really create a mindset for ourselves, right? I mean, I was talking a lot at the beginning of the year about negative self-talk, right? Working on my own negative self-talk and encouraging other people to work on negative self-talk. Because the more we say negative things to ourselves, the more we just believe them. So, finding ways to make those shifts in those bad habits that we have. If you're someone that always talks to yourself in a negative way, and the guideline I use in that situation is, would you ever talk to a friend that way? Or would you ever talk to a spouse or a parent or a sibling that way? Because if you wouldn't talk to that person that way, then don't talk to yourself that way.
Yeah, so important. And psychologically, don't feel like you're abnormal. We all have an inner critic, right, who kind of yells at us. I had a therapist once who said I should name it. So I named her Ursula after the sea witch.
I love that. Yes. And so Yes, I had one at one point. I called her Vanessa. Not that there's anything wrong with the name Vanessa, but that's what I called my inner negative side. And so we all have that. And sometimes for people that can be motivating, right? Oh, come on, you need to exercise today. You need to do this. Okay, that's a little bit of encouragement. What I don't want people to do is engage in it like you're fat, you're lazy, you're stupid, you're, all that really, those negative pejorative words. You say those things to yourself on a regular basis, you believe them, and then you are even more unmotivated.
Okay, so that's where you want to nip it in the bud. So we're talking about how to find joy in everyday life. Let me ask you this, is joy, I guess joy is an emotion, and is it something that we should feel every day?
I think there's little things. I mean, if the word joy seems too extreme, it's having a little bit of excitement or something to look forward to, or it could be, it could be joy, and that joy could be like, oh, I'm going to get ice cream tonight, right? I haven't had ice cream in several days. I'm going to get myself some ice cream tonight. That's bringing in a little bit of joy to your life. So it doesn't have to be the big things. I'm planning a massive vacation. It could be, oh, I'm going to get some ice cream for myself, or I'm going to take a break in the middle of the day and go for a walk, or you know what? Instead of making my tea this morning, I'm going to get a tea from Starbucks. So doing little things,
little treats
that can bring you joy and bring you a sense of like excitement or pleasure.
What if you're dealing with something difficult, some financial stress, an illness, and yet I think psychologically healthy people find ways to even find joy in those moments, but that seems a lot harder. What do we do when you just can't take off your mind off of whatever negative is happening?
So the bigger concept there is what we call resiliency, right? Individuals who are just naturally have resiliency often have the skill of mental and emotional flexibility. So I can look at a situation, I can, you can get a health diagnosis that is concerning, and you can say, that's it, my life's going to be shortened, or, I'm never going to be able to do what I like to do if I have arthritis in this joint or that joint. Or the resiliency is the flip of that mindset or that attitude of, okay, I might have some, issues with my knees, but my upper body still works well, and I can do more things with my upper body, or, whatever it is. So it's the resiliency often is in the mindset and how you can shift how you see something negative. It doesn't mean that you have to say, no, that, those arthritis in my knees or whatever it is, it shouldn't bother me. No, it's okay to acknowledge and validate, well, this is hard for me, or this causes me pain, but let me also, in that mental flexibility piece, recognize what I can do or what I should do, or something that'll make me feel better.
So often, especially women, we are feeling overwhelmed all the time, like the next thing, the next thing. So to cross the bridge from overwhelm back to joy, you're saying it is really possible, but it starts with choosing to do that, choosing to notice what makes us joyful.
Right. So being overwhelmed, if you think about like being overwhelmed or kind of anxiety, right? Anxiety and being overwhelmed is really thinking about way too many pieces, right? I have to do A and B and C and D and E, and I'll never get to all of them by the end of the week, as opposed to breaking things down into smaller parts. I will feel less overwhelmed if I only focus on doing A, right? I'm not even talking about the next steps. I just need to break it down into a part. And I need to do step A. I'm not going to talk about the rest of the steps. The rest of the steps don't matter. After step A, I'll make my next decision. And that might be waiting a while, or it might be going into step B. So being overwhelmed means you're taking on too much, and it becomes too hard to do anything because you become emotionally paralyzed and then avoidant.
Okay. So it doesn't change the fact that maybe the to-do list is long and you still have a boss who's expecting things, but that ability to compartmentalize, that ability to take a breath and even choose to be like, I have 1 minute, I'm going to focus on my coffee. I'm going to take this intentional break to just shift for a moment before I move on to step B.
Right. And that's the way that you decrease that feeling of overwhelm, or you decrease the feeling of stress, or you better manage your anxiety. It's what's the thought running through my head? How is that affecting my behavior? And what do I need? What can I do right now? Because if it's something, I'm worried about, paying college tuition in the fall, well, that's, that's going to be then. So right now, what I need to do is I just need to focus on what I can do today to make myself feel better and to, maintain my position and do what I need to do to help myself. So it's really focusing better on the here and now as opposed to everything in the future that we have no control over.
Don't make your expectations too low, you say. We often will adapt to those downward expectations.
I like to say, moderate to low moderate is the best place for expectations. If your expectations are high, like today is just going to be the best day, and then one thing goes wrong, people with black and white thinking then would say, see, the whole day is ruined. As opposed to, my goal today is just to, accomplish one thing off of my list. I'm a big list person. So I make lists, and I just crossed off 2 things off my list today. To me now, that's a good day, right? Yeah. So that's a moderate level of expectation. I'm not going to get to the whole list. I have 12 things on my list. I'm just going to cross off 1 or 2 things. And guess what? If I feel like I have energy later, I'll cross off more. So keeping your expectations moderate or low to moderate helps you feel a sense of success, because if you just expect everything's going to be the best and the greatest, then anything that's less than that will feel like a failure experience, and that will wear on you and cause you to lose motivation.
And also, you don't want us to habituate to too low of expectations of bad health or poor relationships. So we can also get used to the wrong things.
Right. We can get used to the wrong things. We can just say, well, this relationship's pretty bad. Oh, well, this is just the way it is, as opposed to saying this relationship might be bad, but you know what? I need someone else to talk to. Let me schedule an appointment with a therapist. Let me get someone's outside perspective. That doesn't necessarily change the relationship, but I've done one thing to support myself and help myself feel better. So I'm not just habituating to that, to all the negative experiences in that, say, one relationship or a job or a friendship that's really kind of become toxic or going sour. You're not necessarily going to make massive change at one time. It's about taking one small step.
So for those of us who are a little type A, tend to lean toward the perfectionism, asking for a friend, though I've worked on that, you also want us to learn acceptance. When we accept things as they are, we actually can build an easier bridge to joy.
Yeah, and when I was, writing up some of the talking points for this and really looking at this concept, the Serenity Prayer is actually what came to mind, right? So Serenity Prayer is used a lot in AA, or people that are connected to someone who has some type of addiction issue, right? And so that Serenity Prayer is granting us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things that we can, and then the wisdom to know the difference. So that's, as simple as it is, it's actually quite profound. So it doesn't mean we have to accept everything, but knowing this is something that I can change, or this might be something that I need to accept. Having that wisdom in dialectical behavioral therapy, we call it wise mind, right? Coming back to your wise mind, and knowing what we can change and what we cannot change, and that we just need to accept.
Yeah. So just in our final wrap up of the last 5 minutes of the show, the idea is that finding joy in everyday life. There's a new book out, and in fact, let me just get that. What is the book called again, Dr. Saunders? I don't have it.
Look again, the power of noticing what was always there. And really, it's written by, I think, a psychologist and economist, right? So it just looks at things from 2 what you think would be very different perspectives. But the core concept really is about habituation, right? It's our brain's tendency to respond less and less to things that are constant or change very slowly. And sometimes that habituation just causes us to decrease our expectations or not find joy in the little things.
Yeah, when we take it for granted. And a lot of people are into the art of manifestation and bringing things into your life. And I was reading the other day that everything you're doing right now was likely a dream before. I really wanted to be a broadcast journalist, as we talked about. You wanted to be a psychologist. I wanted to be a mom. All these things that we've achieved. Now it's like, okay, what's next? So just not always moving on to what's next, and taking a moment to really enjoy the proverbial smell the roses. But when we take that moment to really see things and feel things, it increases our joy.
Yes, and right, it's again, we talk about the concept of gratitude, and we talk about it more in the fall around Thanksgiving, but gratitude is something we can bring to our life on a daily basis, and that is breaking things down into firsts, enjoying small moments, creating some small changes if that's what helps us feel better, or providing ourselves some small rewards and reinforcements as a way to help stay motivated.
Yeah, you know, Dr. Daniel Amen is a famous psychiatrist that he talks about the ants, and maybe it's his term, maybe it's a psychological term, but automatic negative thoughts. So we have ants every day. So we just kind of have to kill the ants. We don't have to believe everything we're thinking when it's like, I'm not gonna have money, I'm not gonna have this, or that person hates me, or I hate that person, or this is so annoying. I mean, we all have those negative thoughts, but we have to choose to not pay attention to them and to pay attention to things that actually make us happy.
Yes, and actually the first step in that is actually identifying that it's a negative thought, right?
Okay.
Instead of like, sometimes people just assume that this is the way it is, right? No, that's a negative thought that I'm having, and I have an ability to sort of flip the script on that thought, identify it, then work on flipping the script.
So in our practical steps, let's say tomorrow morning you wake up and you say, I was watching Dr. Saunders on CURES. I really want to have a more joyful day. What would be step one?
Step one would be, what will bring me a little bit of happiness or excitement today? What one small thing, right? I'm not talking about winning the lottery. That's not something we have any control over, but something you do have control over in your life. What one small thing will bring you a little bit of joy or a little bit of excitement today, and then stepping into it?
Yeah, and it could be things like you really love to walk, so let yourself have a 5-minute walk before you dive into the email that you know is going to make you not feel so great.
Right, or you know what, you love crossword puzzles, and you know, and you're going to take time tonight to work on a crossword puzzle all by yourself, right? So it's the small things that we need to do that sort of break up sometimes the monotony or habituation of life.
And the monotony or the mundane is not necessarily bad. I mean, we can be grateful that we always get to sleep in the same place, or there's always the same food in the fridge, because that even that routine can help us free us up to kind of focus on more joyful things.
Right. I'm actually reading a book about France and World War II, and realizing like there were times and eras in history where people did not have enough to eat at the end of the day, and lived in really very difficult conditions. So that might be a bigger issue, but taking some satisfaction in the small joys and the things that we do have, and not focusing as much on what we don't have.
Yes. Wanting what we have, right? Just instead of getting what we want all the time, wanting what we have. I think that's an Alanis Morissette song, maybe. I'm not sure.
Or the Rolling Stones, you can't always get what you want.
Okay, that too. All right, Dr. Laura Saunders, thank you for being here. We always want you on CURES Cure, so thank you for sharing your wisdom today.
Thank you, Kara.
And if you want to follow me on social media, I'm at Kara Sundlin. I do like to share this content there. Have a great day, everyone, and be well.